Hello, this is Malorian, and this is the Orc Tactical Team, and what we're going to be talking about today is just some general tactics for 8th coming out. So we've been used to 7th for a long time now, all about the different baits and fleas. We've seen a lot of big Death Stars, a lot of really powerful magic, and now it's to 8th, and it's a completely different ball game. Part of the reasons why it is completely different is that you really can't do the bait and flee anymore, and the type of countering tactics. The reason for that is because when you try and bait something, if they can pass a leadership test, they can redirect into something else. When they destroy a unit, they can reform. Even when you hit the flank, unless you have an extra rank, you're not going to be taking their ranks away, so you're really limited in what you can use to counter on the side. And the biggest one is that if they have more ranks than you, they're steadfast, which is the same thing as stubborn. So when you put all these things together, the dynamics of the game really just changes. It's just, instead of having all these small, MSU, multiple small units, and trying to bait and flee and counter and all this fun stuff, now we're going to start seeing a lot of big, huge hordes. We still might see some of the small support units, but the game is really moving to these big hordes. Another thing you're going to be seeing changing is the magic. So whereas before people could go, it was kind of the first past the post thing, right? When you got to a certain point where you got past your opponent's dispel dice, all the rest of the magic you take is just going through all the time. But now you have random power dice, random dispel dice. Most armies can't get any more than that. The dispel, the miscast table is really harsh. It's totally different, but at the same time the spells are going to be more powerful. Shooting as well, shooting is getting crazy. We're all of a sudden, we have more ranked shooting. We're having these big huge ordnance with no partials, no guessing needing to be happening. So those are all getting really powerful as well. And really, I think one of the best descriptions I heard about 8th was that it was 7th on steroids. Basically, you take any aspect of the game and you just bump it up to the crazy levels, right? In combat, more stuff is going to be dying because more ranks are attacking, and more things are going to be shot down by shooting, and more things are going to go through magic. So when you're looking at all this, a lot of people at this point are trying to wonder, what am I going to be doing for general tactics when I'm going into this new system? Well, let's look at some of these different areas. So shooting. You have a lot more things shooting. You have your war machines are doing a lot more damage. But when you keep in mind that we're going to be seeing these bigger hordes, even if you have twice as many arrows shooting, it really doesn't really matter at the end. Sure, you're going to be, wiping out little fast cav units and little support things, but that really means that you're going to be seeing less of it, meaning that that little shooting is going to be even less effective. So when you're looking at it, I wouldn't be going and taking a lot of big blocks of archers unless they're also combat units as well. So that's talking about things like your Sea Guard for high elves or your dwarf corollaries with great weapons, so that you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. And how about magic? Well, magic, before you could get away with having no magic at all, right? If you were to put all your stuff into scroll caddies, you'd be fine and saving a lot of points. But the difference now is, instead of just having the 2 power dice pool, now you're going to be getting 2d6 all the time. So with all these dice, you might as well use them. And as well, you kind of need a caster for defense, because now you add your magic level to what you use to cast and to dispel. So if you don't have any casters at all and you're trying to roll your dispel dice, the other person will be getting +4 to the roll, you're getting nothing, and you're going to have a hard time. So at this point, I'm thinking that pretty much everyone's going to need a magic caster, and probably even level 4. I think it could be very common to see a level 4 mage in every single army. But the main thing I want to be talking about right now is the hordes, and because this is something that I see as being a big loophole in 8th that we're going to see really pushed. And it's really hard to say it's going to be pushed, because just like you could say in 7th that a big thing was, if you want to win, to get the Death Stars, really crazy magic, stuff like that. Not everybody's going to go out and get these crazy hordes, but those who do want to win can use this tactic, and they're just going to win. It's going to be very hard to beat them. You have to do your best to tie them. So let's talk about these big hordes. Some of the things with them is that if you're 10 wide, you get an extra attack. So you want to be kind of big width-wise, you get more attacks. Of course, as we said, you have more depth. If you have more ranks, you're going to be stubborn. So all of a sudden, it starts to look like you want to have these huge, huge units. And whereas you can take night goblins and you can have lots for cheap, in the end you want to do some damage too. So you want to find something that's cheap and has a really strong attack. And I can tell you right now, the king of this horde game is going to be the Marauders from the Warriors of Chaos with great weapons and the Mark of Khorne. 5 points per model, plus the little fraction for whatever the unit is for the Mark of Khorne. And wow, I mean, big units of those, you can take 6 units of 50 and still have lots of room in your army. And these things are just going to slash apart whatever you're against. The only thing that's going to be kind of stopping this happening is just how expensive it is to buy all those things. Probably the most common hordes you're going to see are going to be the Night Goblin hordes because of the starter set. And then with the new starter set coming out with Skaven, you're probably going to see a lot of Skaven hordes as well. But at least those ones don't have a lot of big attacks. But if you think about it, you know, some of these other hordes, you can go to elite hordes. You know, what happens if all of a sudden you start taking things like, oh, I don't know, Black Orcs, or Bestigors, or Executioners, or these type of elite units and these big units as well. All of a sudden, they're extremely powerful. They're extremely expensive as well, but there's a very key point here, is that all of a sudden, it turns to a big thing of point denial. If I take a huge unit of, let's say, 300 big guns, right? Well, you're never going to kill enough of those guys to get the full points. Or let's say if I go for something like, I don't know, let's say a unit of 500 Night Goblins, right? 1,500 points. I still have points for doing some other stuff too. You know, I can have a huge unit, hide some stuff behind. You'll never kill those 500 guys, right? You're not going to get to this unit in the back, especially if I wedge myself in a corner or something and protect it. And in the end, it's just, you have no victory points, and whatever I kill, that's what I got. So I think this is going to be a huge loophole, and so really what people are going to have to really concentrate on and make sure in their metagame is really how you're going to deal with these hordes. And there's a couple of different ways. One way is going to be with magic, because there's a few spells that hit everybody in the unit. So ones like those are going to be fantastic. You know, ones where everybody in the unit takes a toughness test or initiative test. You can slaughter tons of guys. The artillery, where you have like the mortars or things that you can blast big holes in those. Those things are going to be key. Another thing you might want to do is take your own hordes, but go strictly for ranks, right? So if you know one person's taking a huge horde of those, let's say 50 executioners, right? Well, you know you got 10 ranks to beat. Well, okay, if you're an Orc and Goblin player, take 70 Night Goblins, but make them 5 wide. So all of a sudden you have 14 ranks, okay? So then when you go in, you're charging in with those to make sure they're not steadfast, bash in with some chariots or something else for some kills, and then you can break them. But it's going to be very tough, and you're going to have to make sure everything is well planned out. And with the random charge distance, it's going to be tough. So what am I saying? What am I saying are the general tactics for 8th? The number one thing, hordes. Number 2, everybody should look into having magic now. If you don't take magic, you better be dwarves. Nobody else really has an excuse now, because it's just, you'll be hindering yourself so much if you don't take it. Shooting is nice, but you should be looking at artillery as opposed to little archers, and that's going to be mainly it. You know, there's going to be later videos I'm going to be talking about more about how to use the new system to get flanks and things, but at this point when you're making your lists, just try and find the way to hit those main areas. Hordes, magic, and artillery. Go out, play some games, see how it works, and then we're going to come back and start talking about all the different armies. So that's all I want to say about for today. Next time we're going to be talking about characters going into 8th. Big changes, going to 25%. You have a lot of different ones you can take now for a lot of different options, but we'll talk about it in the next video. Okay, see you then.